Hello. Welcome everyone. We're just gonna we this is Pastor James Solomon here giving you another talk, another episode of Like Father, Like Son, where we come together with various young men and older men as well, who are father and sons biologically, or they may be spiritual fathers and also spiritual sons. And so, as always, our goal is to bridge that relationship that is between father and sons. A relationship that has been definitely challenged in our society, a relationship that the enemy does not want to succeed. And so I always say that when you hear of the phrase "you're just like your father," normally for our community that has a bad notion to it. But here, like father, like son, we seek to kind of just dispel that and really give God's purpose of what father and son is all about. You know, the scripture says, Jesus said, "I always do the things that pleases my father." And then the father response was, "This is my son in whom I'm well pleased." And so, even as fathers and sons, that's not always the case. You know, we don't always do the thing that pleases our fathers. And at times we feel like maybe we're not pleased with some of the things that our sons are doing. But here, with God's wisdom, with God's guidance, and God's instruction, we can help be the men and the fathers and the sons that God called us to be. So, with that being said, I first want to introduce my son, Zachariah Lee Solomon. This is my firstborn. Actually, August the 22nd, he will be 13. So, I have a teenager, y'all. I have a teenager, and so he's a good kid, and so hopefully, going forward, he will be with us on Father Like Son, and I'm looking forward to that. Zach, you want to say hi? All right, he'll talk in a minute. But I think he has a few questions that he might want to interject. So I don't know what question he want to ask, but I said just go for it. But we have as our guest, we have Ira Dorin, amen, a good friend of mine's. We grew up in deliverance together. We worked in ministry together. He's a great guy. I would say Ira is a man of integrity.
Thank you.
And I enjoy the conversation we had, even when we had the little basketball team, or we will play basketball at the church. And on the side, we would have these conversations, and he would talk to me about my sons, even when they were very young. So, with that being said, we have one of his sons, Devin Dorin. And Devin, we thank God for you. I think y'all are the first biological father and sons that we had. We had like a lot of spiritual fathers and sons, but y'all are the first one that we have on here that's actually father and son. Also, you have another son, Ira, also named Ira Dorin, and he's supposed to have been with us, but Ira has some other things to take care of. He has a meeting that he has to do, attend with his school. He's in college and he's playing baseball, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what school Ira go to?
To get his master's degree.
I'm sorry, you said it again. I couldn't hear you.
Pfeiffer University, right outside Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And he's going back for his master's.
Going back for his master's. So I think he's playing baseball, he playing sports, and he also focused to go for his master's. So Ira, can you just introduce yourself? Give us like just who you are, where you fellowship from, where you living at, and then Dorin, you can introduce yourself after.
Okay. Again, my name is Ira Dorin, and originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Um, Became a deacon over at Deliverance Evangelistic Church under late Pastor Benjamin Smith Sr. Um, Now, my family and I have two boys, two girls, one wife, been married for over 27 years. Sorry, the oldest one couldn't make it today, just for some fact that he had another meeting that he already had made obligations to. Right now, we attend um, the name of the church, Devin, Gospel Nation Christian Fellowship Church. See the right hand side right here. So I have any
Right.
questions? Devin, he on it. The Pastor John Bailey. So pretty much, and this is my son Devin.
My name is Devin Dorin. I'm in college studying criminal justice. I play ball as well. So that's it. I'm in Georgia, from Philadelphia, and I attend Gospel Nation as well.
Devin, so what sports you play?
Baseball.
Baseball, both of y'all. So I'm gonna see y'all in the pros.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I believe it. I mean, y'all guys. I was talking to your brother, and I was just saying, how proud I am of y'all. You never know who is watching you guys, even through social media. Even from a distance, and so it was an honor to even get you guys on there because of the relationship that I know the type of man that your father is, and I truly believe that you guys are following in those footsteps. Listen, you say you're studying criminal law. How is that?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Just learning the laws and getting the upper hand on what you need to learn in life. On the other side of it, so.
Okay. And I think some of the discussions we have had in the past, and we will have in the future, is how to deal with just deal with the law, how to deal with police officers, how to respond with so much that is going on in our community now between African American men and law enforcement. So to have a young man that is actually studying law, I might want to have you on again so you can give us some insight on your perspective of being young African American, but also you understanding the law as you are learning now. So maybe we can schedule that in a further date. But what we want to talk about tonight, what we want to talk about this evening, and the title is "Walking in My Daddy's Shoes." Walking in my daddy's shoes, and so I really want to. First of all, before I get into that, I want to read a scripture. I want to read a scripture, and it is in John chapter 5, just verse 19, one verse. And basically, the Lord says, it says, then answered Jesus and said unto them, verily, verily, or truly, truly, I say unto you, the Son can do nothing of himself, but what he sees the Father does. For what things soever the Father does, these also does the Son likewise. And then it says, verse 20, for the Father loves the Son and show him all things that himself that he does. And so I love that relationship that's in the Bible between Christ and the Father, because Christ said, I can do nothing except what I see my Father does. And so I kind of translate that even into today, even as imperfect men and women, that how as young men, how we look at our parents, we watch our parents, and whether it be good or bad, if we're trained well or we're not trained well, we're going to end up doing what our parents do. We're going to end up following in that same footsteps. So, but I love the fact that Jesus said, whatever my Father does, I does. And I do. Another illustration I want to give before I start getting into the questions, it is found in Joshua chapter 1, verses 5. And Joshua chapter 1, verse 5, it says, there shall not any man be able to stand before thee all the days of thy life. As I was with Moses, so I will also be with thee. I will not fail thee nor forsake thee. And one of the reasons why I love this story of Joshua, because Moses was like a father figure to Joshua. And Moses left the scene, and now it's Joshua's turn to take the helm, to take the torch, and lead the whole nation of Israel. And I know Joshua was nervous taking on that heavy responsibility and challenge. But one thing the Lord said, he said, as I was with Moses, so will I be with you. And when I look at that, God split the Red Sea for Moses, and he helped Joshua cross the River Jordan. And so I like that because the Lord said, I will not fail you, just like I was there. So I want to talk about today walking in daddy's shoes. And so I think we all can relate to, well, I know Ira, you might can relate to at one point when your sons was younger, they would try on your shoes.
Yes, sir.
They would try on your shoes. And they had these little feet where they put their feet in your shoes and they try to walk in your shoes and they stumble and they fall because here's these big size 11 or size 12 or whatever size, and they wearing like a -2 or something. They trying to walk. But then also, I recall like as you get older and as the kid grow, you know, these kids now they growing faster, they're growing up, they're getting bigger. So as they grow, they begin to try to walk in the shoes, but now they can slide a little bit. They can kind of move a little bit and they can kind of maneuver. But then, you know, even as they get older, they get to a point where they can't even fit our shoes anymore. You know, they outgrow our shoes, you know. So I want to use that whole idea, that whole picture for this discussion today. So with the first question I have today, I want to ask you this. First, I kind of came up with this analogy because you know how many times we lose our shoes. Now, how many times you like, where are my shoes? I know I still do that. Where's my shoes? Anybody know where my shoes is? And I'm like, God, I need my shoes to walk. So I want to ask you this question. What was some of the fears that you had when you first became a father? You know, was it any hesitation? Was it any nervousness? Was it any apprehension? Like, what are some of the things that you dealt with when you first became a father?
I believe that one of the first things that I'm gonna kind of play a little bit backwards to the question that you're asking me. I remember it was Ara's first birthday, and I was working for this company that had a lot of hours that I had to put in, and it started getting late, and I was getting calls after next. I was almost home, then I get called, I go back out, and when everything was said and done, I get home, and my wife asked me. She says, "Where's the basketball that you said you were gonna bring home to Ira?" And I said, "Oh." And my heart just dropped because it was like, I don't know, close to like 11 to 12 o'clock, far enough time where he should have been in bed. And it just slipped my mind. And they both waited up for me until I got in the house. And she asked me, "Where's the basketball?" And at that time, Walmart wasn't 24 hours, and living in the city of Philadelphia, you just can't go to no store and find some basketball. I mean, so like, so with myself, I'm like, I'll just go out there. I go out and try to find. No, it's too late now. She said, just if you ever, promise him something, make sure you go through with it. And that was a early lesson that I've learned. Now, if you ask me that question, I've learned that some of the things that I wanted to make sure that I did not do was make a commitment or make a judgment on something that I would have to renege later on in life. So I really wanted to be careful on the things that I taught him. And I'm using Ira first as an example because this was the very first.
Right.
So my thing was I wanted to make sure that because there's no guidebook, there's no handbook for how to be the perfect father. You know what I'm saying? And I wanted to be the perfect father. And I wanted to make sure that the foundation and the groundwork that I was laying would be sturdy and it's somewhere where we can build a relationship for him to be a young man.
Okay.
So I guess the fear would come in as making uh, right decisions that will not hinder him in the future.
Okay. I mean, Devin, how old are you?
19.
19. 19. Um, one I can think back and I'm answering this question also. One of the fear I had, God, being in ministry, me and my wife, we was like heavily involved in ministry, so we were able to just go here and go there and just do ministry, and we were really engaged and really like giving our all. We were married, we didn't have many kids, so we were able to just go. And so I remember when she was pregnant, and we was at a point where it was like almost any day now she can go into the hospital to have Zachariah. And I mean, to be honest, I mean, I was like, oh God, like my life is going to change. I was like, I'm not gonna be able to do some of the things I want. I'm like, how's it going to be like with ministry, like all these, because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know, but I can feel like there was a responsibility that was coming my way, and I knew that I had to make adjustments. And I was like, wow, this is very challenging. And so I remember when he first was born, and I remember going into the hospital, and while he was in the incubator, I was looking at him, and it was just like, wow, like that's mine. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's a part of me. And I was staring like it was so surreal. But at the same time, I was it was like everything flashed before me. And now it was like it wasn't about doing things for me. It was that I had a son that I had to now be mindful of, when I was making decisions. So I was like, but my revelation of God as God being a father and I'm being the son changed. I mean, it really changed because I began to like really depend on the Lord like never before, because my father, he passed when I was 7. So he wasn't around to help guide me and give me these instructions of how to be a father. So it's still a learning situation with us. And I have another son, Joshua. He's upstairs. But it was really challenging. But the Lord has helped me and is helped me, and I am learning. So that's one of the things. I want to ask Devin, and I have a quote here, or a comment. Um, and my quote is basically, we never wore the same size anyway. And the reason why I said that, because even I says, as a father, as a son gets older and he begin to outgrow his father's shoes. I know you're 19. I know you still have to grow. You know what I mean? I know there's some still things you have to experience, but you're a young man. I mean, you're 19 years old. You're a young man, so you see things from your world's view, from your perspective. The question I want to ask you is, um, what is the process like of becoming your own man, but having your father as an example? Now, what is your perspective of you're becoming a man? You're going. You have your own experiences. Your own view, your own perception, but yet you still have your father as an example. It's like we don't wear the same shoes, but I still like your style. So can you speak to what's that like of coming into your own, but still having this man here as an example?
Um, I take that as like you have your own decisions you have to make because you're older, you're getting older, but you still know right from wrong in the base where you was, taught up from. So when you go out and you do things and you see things, you know what you should do, what you should not do, because the base of where you've been, taught um, by the father you have, and how he would like you to grow up as a man. So I just take that as you still know where you was brought up, who you was brought up with, and by, which is your father. So you should, refer back to what he had brought you up with, and he grew up telling you, and just build off what he had stored in you.
Zach, you have a question?
Um,
Speak up.
what what is What is your perspective of being an African American father?
Oh, okay. You heard him? You might didn't hear him. He says, you, Ira. He said, what is your perspective of being an African American father?
Um. Well. First of all, what I try to do is, well, my perspective of being is being a role model. First of all, of any race, um, we have a tendency to put ourselves in a box, and I don't only want to be that role model of the African American father, but be a role model of a father in general. But when I look at a father for an African American father, we've for so long had different titles on us and different views in life with other people that don't look like us. So I say strong, positive. I've heard a minister say one time, if you make a decision, stick with the decision that you made. So I think that the decisions that we make as African American fathers, we need to stick with it and just show that our strength and our value lies within us.
Um, that's that's good. What I see as being an African American father, and my perspective is, again, I grew up in North Philadelphia, so I grew up seeing, hearing violence, young men um, giving themselves over to the streets, to drugs, to in and out of jail. And it's not like I live in the king palace. It's not like I'm rich. It's not like I have everything that I want. But my perspective is that you don't have to be a statistic.
Right.
My perspective is you don't have to. I have this saying that don't allow a lie to become a truth. And I say that because people can say things about you, and they can say this and say that and try to smear your name or even come against you as a people. But I think it is your response that shows whether or not what they're saying is true. And I love to prove people wrong. And I love to prove them wrong by my actions, by my response. So that doesn't mean I always respond the right way, but I do want to show that you can put your best foot forward. When you make a mistake, admit to it. That's one of my key things is admit that you're wrong, because you're not always going to make the right choices. But the best thing is you can say, well, I was wrong. You can own it. And so that's one thing I try to teach them, to own it, to own, your decisions and your choices. But just to know that he's going to be his own man. He's going to be his own
Right.
man. He's going to come into a place where hopefully some of the things that I've said to him will come back to his mind when he's facing. But I always try to teach him to think. That's my biggest thing is to just to think, not to always try to get the right answer, not to always try to do the right, have the right response, but just think. Think about some of the consequences of your choices. So, and I think that's critical with us because
Right.
out here, go ahead.
Right. You're right. You know, with me growing up, my father taught all of us, my sisters and my brother and I, to be. We were free thinkers. We didn't go along with the process because this is the process. We thought out the box. And so when we felt well, because my dad, he was the mechanic. My dad, he was the electrician. My dad was the waterman. So we had to think out the box a lot of times. So I always learned to think out the box and just, now I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. No, but when there's an issue or a problem, I'm like, my mind is always going, how can, if you tell me, no, this can't happen, this can't work this way, my wheels are turning because I'm trying to figure out it can work. How can it work? And I'm and not to be on the on the Christian side of or the religious side of it, we're gonna give it to the Lord and He's gonna work it out. But faith without work is dead. So I've tried to find a way to make something happen. You say, well, you can't get on the internet because this is not working. Okay, we can figure it out. Try to make it think, make it work, make it work.
That's good. That's good. And I think because I think one of the things that I want him and even the young men to know is don't give up too easily. Don't give up. And if somebody say you can't do it, or somebody say you won't be able to do it, don't just take that. Don't let nobody kind of limit you in what you can do, because that is critical to us, doing what God has placed within us. I want to speak. I want to ask this: how important is the words we speak to our children, in their development?
I think it's very important for the words that we speak for the development of our children, for the simple fact that we try to speak. Well, I refer back to when I was growing up. And James, you probably heard this, Pastor James. You probably heard this before. Men don't cry. And growing up, we've always heard, or I've always heard, you get ready, you do something, and your mom tell you no, or something happened, and you start crying a little bit, and the first thing your mom or another older person say, men don't cry, men don't cry. And I really didn't understand what they were saying at that time. Right. At that time, what they were saying wasn't men doesn't cry, because my whole family was in the church and I've seen my dad cry, and I've heard my dad say men don't cry. Mm-hmm. But what he was saying, that men don't cry, is that we do what we got to do. When I first went into the military, my mom told me a man got to do what a man got to do. Okay. And with my parents telling me men doesn't cry, it made me grow up a stronger man. It made me understand that what they were saying is, yes, we do cry. Okay, there's a time for crying, but we're not wimpy. We're grown up to be strong men. Not even strong men in the nature, but strong men in Christ. So they weren't saying men doesn't cry. They were saying that men, being a man, grow up, be strong. So those words really played a real big part in my life, and I try to tell my boys that they grew up, but then men doesn't cry. But then later on in the cycle, you have to let them know that it's okay to cry, because now we're changing. We're coming from that caterpillar to the cocoon to the butterfly. So now we're doing a transition now, because they understand where I was coming from as being a strong man, but now you have a sensitive side of you where you can cry, where you can worship Christ. You know what I'm saying? Where your emotions can now be a part of you, because you have a good foundation of being a young man.
Devin, I would thank you for that, because I think we go through a process. I think we all go through a process of, like you said, of thinking, well, not crying, that's showing a sense of strength, But I know for me, and it's like a flip side of this. I know for me growing up, I didn't even know how to cry. I mean, because it was just that, I don't know. I never really had that father figure there, that close bond. So even, for instance, even when my father passed, I was at the funeral and I was like, well, maybe I should cry. I don't know. Should I? Because there wasn't that type of bond where I'm like, oh my God, I really felt like I lost something. Even though, I did lose something, but I think through life that stuff began to build up. It began to build up where I didn't cry, to and I expressed before that one of the times I really been getting a cry, it was right before I got married. Because again, I was going into an area of responsibility that was like, whoa, God, I don't know. Like all this is coming up before me, and I don't know if I'm able to handle it. Devin, I want to ask you something. You play sports.
Yes, sir.
You play sports, right? And playing sports, your father go to your games?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How does it feel for you when you're playing sports and you look and you see your father there? How does that feel in the game of sports? But also, how does that feel when you know when you're going through life, you look and you see him there? How can you speak to both of those situations?
Yes. I feel like they go hand in hand because after the game, I look forward to talking to him about what went on in the game. So as in life, when I need to go back to him and refer to something that I need done, or what would you do in this situation, in the game or in life, I just put two and two together, and I just just go off of that and see what the best thing that he would do in this situation since he brought me up in this world.
What does it mean to have a godly father growing up in
Um,
a society that's ungodly?
Um, well, number one, he could get me through. He could get me through this tough times in the world. He can tell me, guide me through what I need to get through, as far as all the things that's going on in this world as of today. Um, so yeah.
You think Zach is thinking about another question, but I have this question here.
Sure.
Uh, Here's another little statement, a little phrase that has to do with shoes. And I've said this oftentimes with both my kids, because you walk around when they're younger and they running, and you look and their shoelaces is untied, and they running and their shoelaces is flipping and flopping, and in your mind you're like, oh my God, they gonna trip on their shoes, they gonna fall, they gonna hurt themselves. So I often find myself saying, come here, let me tie your shoes. I try to tie it real tight. I try to tie like in double, triple knots so they won't fall. So with that statement, let me tie your shoes. I want to ask this question. As a father, how do you determine when to step in and prevent your kids from making a mistake and then letting them grow from their mistake or letting them learn? Like, how can you determine when do I step in and prevent them from even making this mistake? But how do I sit back and let them learn? Like, when do I just shoot? When do I decide this is the moment where they need to learn and figure it out? And this is the moment where I need to step in and not be overbearing or controlling.
Okay. So first of all, when when the child comes to you with their shoe or they're running with their shoes untied, it was tied once before. Because before they learn how to tie the shoe, you didn't slip their shoe on and then let them run. We put the shoe on, or they put the shoe on, and then we tied the shoe. And I believe you and me, Jane, we're not Velcro dads. We're not gonna buy you a Velcro sneaker to make it easy for us. Okay?
Wow.
Because you know what I'm saying? So we're the type of dad we'll take the time out to teach you how to tie the shoe. Okay? So once I teach you how to tie the shoe and I put the shoe on you, and then I see you running and the shoe comes untied, and I say, Devin, get over here, your shoe untied. And he keeps on running. Then I go after you and I tie your shoe and I tie it tighter. Okay? Now you're playing again. And then I see you running again, and I say, Devin, your shoe untied. Come here, let me tie your shoe. Now, depending on the circumstances, depending where we're at, if we're on 26th Street in South Philadelphia on the black hardtop, okay, on a one-way street, okay, and you're running down the street and your shoe's untied, I got to stop you. I got to grab you and tie your shoe because it's not going to be a good fall.
Right.
But if you're somewhere where there's nice and grassy area, this is the best place to learn because when I tell you your shoes untied, only thing I'm gonna wind up with is some green knees. So scrub some green grass out your pants. Okay, and you might have got hurt a little bit. So I guess the question that or what I'm trying to say is, I think it depends on the circumstances. You know, I've learned when I first decided to go into the military, and I asked my dad. I had got a scholarship from St. Joe running for Ben Selma High School, and I asked my dad. I said, do you think I should go into the Navy? And he says, well, I'm not going to tell you what you should do because if it doesn't work out for you, I don't want to be responsible for saying that I told you to go in. And then he said, I don't want you to go in and you're successful. Then you think that I should get the credit for saying that I told you so. Okay. So I've always tried to work as I'm going to give you what you need. Okay. I will give you my advice. I will tell you that this will happen if you don't do this. Okay. This will happen if you do this. But now I see that you're going to have to learn the hard way. Okay. If I tell Devin at the age of 19, Devin, no, do not go to that church and play with that choir when everybody there don't have masks on. Okay. And you're the only one got mask on. But I know that it's a good thing for you to do. But however, I can tell you. But now you have to learn on your own. And then we just have to pray and give it to God that the things that he learned, it will not be very devastating for him. So I try to go to a point where I know it's not going to be a real hard lesson that he had learned.
I like the way you said Velcro dads, because it's so tempting to be a Velcro dad.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's like, yo, forget about it. The next pair of shoes we getting, you just gonna flap it over and we cool. You know what I mean? Because it's like you're not just tying them. And I think that I'm in a process of being honest. I'm in a process of in between. I think at times I could be that Velcro dad that's saying, look, here, this is easy. Because I don't want to really have to go through this. But at the same time, it's like I'm gonna tie it real tight and where your feet will not be able to breathe. You know what I mean? And so because I know sometimes, and I'm really praying, like my son, he approaching 13, and his voice got deeper. He's getting taller. His interest is different. Even when he responds. Like before, I had this thing where I used to tickle him all the time. I would tickle him, and he would here I come. He might don't want to hear this, but I'm like, here come tickle, man. That's my thing. And he would just run all over the house, and I would try to find him. I can't do that now. He was like, Dad, come on. Really? Like come on. We're not even doing it. So
Give me a kiss.
And look, my son used to always, like, one thing, my son, they will always come give me a kiss. Both of them will kiss me, Daddy, I love you. They would give me a kiss, come around, give me a kiss. And now I'm like, yo, like, what's up? Like, all right, good night, Dad. And I'm like, yo, I'm kind of like missing that. My youngest son, he's still there. So he is still coming, give me a kiss for him. And I try to do it on purpose when he's in front of people. I try to, come here, Zach, come here, I love you, man. Come here, my son. And just try to embarrass him. I do that on purpose. But I think I'm adapting. I'm really adapting, and I'm learning, because as he's growing, there's some podcasts that I listen to that's like for men, and I'm listening to it. I'm listening like God, because before, did you have a question? Okay. Before I was like, you that dad, you want to have the answers, even though you don't have the answers, but because you dad is like, because I said so. You know what I mean? But now finding myself really having to change the way I answer him, because because I said so is not enough. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because he want to know why. But he said he has a question.
as a godly father, how do you teach your kids not to go astray when they get older?
Wow. He said,
Well,
as a godly father, how do you teach your kids not to go astray as they get older?
well, we try. First of all, everything that a good question. That was a very good question. Very good question. Um, First of all, the way I live, the way my wife and I live, okay, we don't we live by the word of God, you know. We're I guess you could say we're old school. We don't listen to the R&B, the hip hop, and all that. We live right righteous in front of our kids and not in front of our kids. Okay, so the people that knows us, they know that if they slip up or say something, oh excuse me, Mr. Doran or Mrs. Doran. So we live and we teach our kids by example of how we live. Okay, so they cannot leave this house or the front door and say, well, if my dad does it, I guess it's okay with me. You know what I'm saying? So I live the God fearing life that my kids will see that I'm not shucking and jiving. You know what I'm saying? That whatever we're doing, you know what I'm saying, we're doing it for the will of God. Hopefully I was able to answer that question for you. It's the way that we live in front of them. And we teach them, yes, through the words, but we also teach them through how we live for Christ.
Um, Devin,
Yes, sir.
when I talk to you and your brother, um, I think when I talked to you, when I called you, I text you, you responded like real quick. But
Yes, sir.
when I talked to you, you was like, "Hey, sir, yes, sir," and I was like, "Whoa!" I mean, like I was like, "This boy." I mean, just the way you was speaking, it was like respect, and I was like, "Yes, sir." Like you don't even hear that. It's like, "What's up, old head?" You know what I mean? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, wow. I'm like, so from your perspective, then you heard what your dad said, but from your perspective, maybe you have said this, maybe you haven't, but what has been the greatest example that you've seen from your dad?
The greatest example is from my dad is him just trying to show me how to have a family and have a be an example for a family and how to just be a father and your kids and the next generation whenever you start your own family and your own life and how you should just be there for your kids and show them how God you know should get all the glory and honor, and I just think that right there is just a big thing.
I thank you for that response, one. He has another question, but I want to respond to the question that he asked first. Don't forget that, okay? Um, when he said, "How do you prevent your kids, or what type of instructions you give your kids to help them from not going astray?" And that's where I mean, I think there are plenty of times pastor kids, minister kids, whatever. People say, "Well, they're maybe some of the worst kids," which I don't think so. But I think that not even a pastor, just of a godly father. If you're a godly father and the enemy is trying to get to you, but you've been doing the things you need to do, you're not sleeping, you're not slumbering, you're mindful of what the enemy is trying to do, and you live in your life. I do believe the enemy will try to come after your seed. I do believe that he would try to come after and attack um, that individual. So it's not because they seen something that their father wasn't living. It's just that I think the enemy will have a try to have a great attack against them. But one of my prayer is I'm trying to find, and I like what you said. It's not just teaching them the word, because that's the first thing we teach them the word. But I'm really trying to think of um, yes, living it out before them, being an example before them, but I'm being challenged to really monitor him and myself. Like there may be things that I see him do. Instead of me just calling him on it, I need to just ponder and think, because a lot of times the Lord checked me real good. Because I would say, like my other son, he would do something, and but he would come right back down and is like, "Daddy, I'm sorry." And then the next 5 minutes, he may do something again, and he's like, "Daddy, I'm sorry." And I get to the point is like, well, I'm tired of hearing sorry. I want you to learn what I'm teaching you. But before I can get it out, it's like the Lord take those words and throw it right back at me. Because it's like, how many times you come to me and say sorry? And I'm trying to get you to learn certain things. So I think I'm at a process where I'm seeing him doing things. And when I go to correct them, it's like the Lord said, wait a minute, let's work on our relationship in this area. Then you could be really effective at working with him in that area.
Right.
So that's one of the things. What's your question? I talk too much. You forgot his question.
But that's good. And maybe you could think a little bit. Well, I just want to throw this in real quick. 'Cause I really wanted to hear the question that he had. So if it comes back to you, just cut me off. That's really good what you said, Pastor James, because not too long ago I had got another lawnmower, and before I left the house, I told Devin, I said, I need you to cut the backyard, and so I explained to him how to start the lawnmower and everything. And me and Devin, he's going to school for the right thing, for law, because he could tell me 5 years ago you was crossing this street and you had a red shirt on and a black pair of pants on, and you said this and said that, and the car came, blah 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 blah. He could remember verbatim. And this particular time, I told him, I said, Devin, I need you to cut the backyard. I said, this is how you start the lawnmower. I said, this is how you take the bag off and dump it, and then just go ahead and start up again. So he calls me like 40 minutes later and he says, Dad, the lawnmower cut off. So I'm like, all right, Devin. And I said, I said, did you check the gas? So he's looking, he said, he said, yeah, it needs gas. So he said, where's the gas? So I told him where the gas was, and I could hear the frustration in his voice, you know. So he's like, oh, I'm like, Dev, I said, the gas over here, just pour the gas in here, prime it, and I'm over the phone trying to explain to him how to work it, you know. And he never really used his lawnmower before. So he got it all started, and when I got to the house, everything was put away. So I asked him, I said, well, how did you do? Did you have any more problems? He says, no. He says, I cut the grass. He was happy that he accomplished what was set out. He took instructions over the phone, got the lawnmower started, cut the grass. So I said, all right, cool. So I go and I look in the backyard and I see a strip missing here of grass that wasn't cut. And I seen another little strip. And it may be 3 strips, but it really wasn't like, it was more naked to the eye, but it was real thin. And when I saw Devin, I said, man, you did an excellent job. I appreciate that. You know, you did a real good job. So with that being said, I've had to learn that there's a time when you need to critique someone on something, and there's a time where they did their best, where you can hinder them more by telling them they didn't do this totally right. You know, now I'm not even sure if I had told him that he missed a few spots, but I had to give him the credit because 98%, 97, 98% of the job was done. You know, so then I said, okay, so you had to work it in life. Even though that you see, they used to say you got to know what battles to fight. You know,
Yeah.
now, so I'm like, okay, you did good. So now, next time when you go ahead and cut the grass, make sure that you do this pattern. So you make sure you can get this and get that. And then that way you keep that open relationship with your son. They don't shut down. okay, I don't cut this grass. I sweat. I couldn't get the lawnmower started, and he complained that I missed 3 little strips in the backyard. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, well, I want it perfect, but at the same time, I got to make sure that you are working in a perfect will, so the results will come out to be perfect.
Right. Like this is why, I love these type of conversations because it helps me. And I try to be honest and I try to be transparent. That's an area where I need to grow. That's an area where because I want my son to be better in everything that I do. I want him to be better. I just want him to be better at life. I want him to
Mm-hmm.
be a better decision maker. I want him to make better choices. I want him to be better. Whatever he achieved, I want it to be better than what I achieved. Because then I just for him, number one, because I want him to succeed, but also I feel like I really accomplished something when I know that he's further along than me. Now, my flaw in that is I critique him.
Mm-hmm.
I critique him, and there are times that I sit back and I look and I'm like, okay, well, no, you did a good job, but I think there's a lot of times I'm like, well, no, you did do this wrong, you did do that wrong, and he like, oh, and I think that comes from me being hard on my own self coming up,
Mm-hmm.
because I had to teach myself a lot. Matter of fact, the Lord taught me a lot. So I didn't have again that father there to teach me, or like my big brother who was the one that kind of took the place of that father. He went into the military early. So I found myself learning things on my own, and I just wanted to be better at whatever it is that I did, because I went through low self-esteem. I went through having just a bad perspective of myself. And so I was kind of tough. And so I see him, when I see him growing, I see him making choices that I made, not crazy choices, not like something really detrimental, but just I look and I say, well, Dad, if he's thinking about this here, then that can, if he make this bad decision here, that can affect him down the line making a decision that can really cause pain. But I have to realize, like, he's 13. You know what I mean? He's growing, and so I'm learning that. And I like the way you said about fighting your battles, because one thing my sister-in-law, she's right here. One thing she said to me before I even got married, she said, "Pick your battles." And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, "Pick my battles? I don't want to fight. Period." What you mean, pick your battles? But I've learned that through life, you have to pick certain what's worth fighting for.
Right.
And I don't want to, trying to correct him to the point where I'm fighting against him. You know what I mean? And I become sort of his enemy. You know what I mean? Like I
Right.
don't want to try to protect him to the point I'm in his way.
Right.
So I think that's something I'm learning like right now.
That's knowing your boys. Because Devin and Ira are totally two different personalities. Okay, Devin will go through, if it's a situation, he'll go through the situation without thinking. He'll go through the situation. Ira, the oldest, he'll say, "Well, if I do this and do that, then the outcome be this here. Then I get what I want." And one time when they were younger, there was it was an 18 wheeler, and there was a sports car, and I just wanted to see where their mind at. And they know what type of person I am, and I asked Devin. I said, "Which one would you take? Would you take the sports car, or would you take the 18 wheeler, the big truck?" And Devin said, "I'll take the sports car." So I said, "Okay, all right, which one would you take? Would you take the sports car, or will you take the 18 wheeler?" He said, "I'll take the 18 wheeler." He said, "The reason why I take the 18 wheeler," he said, "because I can make money off the 18 wheeler and get a sports car later." And he told them, "Well, you can't make the money off the sports car and get an 18 wheeler." Okay, so the mind thing was, okay, it's two different mind thoughts that I have to work with Devin and work with Ira. So once you learn your kids and your kids learn you, they know they start thinking the way you think, and you pray that they become better than, like you said, you don't want them to be as good as you. I want them to put a shoe on and say, man, Dad, you got small feet. These things too small. Or you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
it's like
Or I can see the way you're walking because your heel is missing a little bit on the right side than the left side. You can tell a lot about a shoe. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So want them, I want them to be like, these shoes don't fit no more, Dad. You know what I'm saying? Or these
right.
outdated. You know what I'm saying? So I mean,
Do you think about your question? I had early on in life, the Lord gave me a dream about my boys, and He gave me, uh, it was crazy. He gave me a bowling ball, and it was you go, you bowl, real pretty rainbow color bowling ball. I mean, real pretty, and it was a vase, and the vase was the same color as the bowling ball. I mean, they was like a matching pair. It just one was a vase, and one was a bowling ball. And so, actually, it was this house that was on fire, and so I go into the house because I'm like, the kids is in here, and I'm like, I have to get in there and get the kids out. So I put a ladder up, and I go up, and I go into the window, and when I reached to grab Joshua, when I pulled him out, he was the bowling ball. He was the bowling ball. So I took that bowling ball, and I just put it down. And when I reached into the window, I grabbed the vase, and I had to take the vase and I had to put it down softly. And the Lord said that because the vase and the bowling ball was the same color, they both was your kids. He said, but the bowling ball was Joshua. He said you can take him and point him in a direction and just roll it. That's how he is. He said the other one, you got to be careful how you handle him. And
mm-hmm.
that's how their personalities are different. And I think that I'm learning it's not just before it was daddy, now it's a relationship. And I think as he's getting older, I'm having to develop my relationship with him and talk to him and ask him his opinion and ask him his advice. So you go about your question?
Yes.
Go ahead.
What is it like for your father to be your role model?
What does it be
So
like a father?
Devin, that question is to you, Devin.
Can you
He
repeat that again?
asks he asks what it's like for your father to be a role model.
Um, to me, it's very important to me because it's just that I have somebody that I can, like I said earlier, to refer to get some information on how I should be living. And I feel like it's very important because if you don't have a father figure in your life that really guides you through the manly things that you need to know about in life and how to support yourself and to grow up as a young man, I think you. I mean, I'm not gonna say that you won't grow up as a good man, but you won't be as strong as you would without a father figure in your life.
That's good. Well, sorry. Well, I listen. I thank you guys for just sharing and for coming on and for giving y'all insight. Devin, you and your brother, y'all are very respectable uh young guys. I mean, y'all are very respectful. Um, I can see that your dad did a good job and is doing a good job. And so I just want to tell you, like I've told you and your brother, I'm proud of you guys. I thank God for the young men that you are, and that you are becoming, and just keep up the good work. I'm praying that your baseball career will. I'm looking to see you guys in the major leagues. Ivor, man, look, thank God for you, man.
Hey, I appreciate you too, and your son as well. Thank you for thinking about us to come on uh, this talk show. We greatly appreciate it a whole lot. Man, you're doing an awesome job too over there, Doc.
I'm trying. I'm always like, you know, am I doing a good job? Am I doing a good job? I think that what I'm learning is that we are fathers and we are husbands, and even now a pastor. But before that, I'm a father and I'm a husband, and I know the more time I spend with the father, I can be more effective father to my son. I think all relationships thrive out of our relationship with God. And
Mm-hmm.
anytime my relationship with my son or my relationship with my wife is going sour, I had to check and see how my relationship with the father is going. Because it's my relationship with him where I get patience. Like I said, one of my biggest thing. I think my son ain't no better than me is allowing them to make mistakes. I don't want to be controlling. You know what I mean? I think sometimes when you were dealing with control, I think when it's somebody that's close with you, whether son or wife, I think as fathers, as husbands, we tend to be controlling because what that person does affects you. And so it's not so much you controlling them, but it's more like you trying to control uh what affects you. And
Mm-hmm.
I think you have no control over that. So I think it's just getting to a point where you be comfortable in yourself and knowing that yes, you have a relationship, but they are individuals at the same time. You know, so like for instance, I say, Lord, this is my son, but then when it gets difficult, I say, Lord, your son. You know what I mean? When it get my wife, well, that's my wife. But when it get difficult, I say, Lord, that's your daughter. You know, so that's just something that I'm learning. But I think through all this conversation, man, it's good for me because I'm learning. And so if you guys have any input, like you might think of something, you might see these episodes, hit me up, be like, James, look, I think you need to deal with this because what I really want to do, I think maybe in the near future, real near future, I want to have just young men. I want to have young sons. I want to hear from just the young sons and come from different walks of life. So pray for me because I really want these young guys to speak. I really want to hear them. I want to hear them talk. So I might just try to have something where I have just a few of them on here so we can hear from them. But again, I thank you guys for being on here. Hopefully my son will be on here next week, God willing, and he has some question. I get my other son. I know he just be running his mouth, so
Yeah, and
that'll
I know
be
Art will be on too. He had texted me earlier. But like I said, they got a new coach and a lot of
yeah,
things is going on right now, and they had a mandatory meeting that they had to attend.
yeah,
So hopefully that if you do get us on again, that we can us three can be on your show. But
yeah.
greatly appreciate
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you. Again, I'm gonna say it all the time. I thank God for Paula Jones. God has truly blessed her with a heart for men, with a heart for black men live, because her prayer is that we live and that we live life more abundantly as God intended for us to live. And so we try to have men and young men on that can not only be examples, but not have arrived. We don't want just perfect people. We want people who are in the struggle, because we don't know how to help them if we don't know where they are. And so we don't know where they are unless they come on and they talk about where they are. So again, those of you who are watching, we're always open to some input, some suggestions that will help this platform grow, and so we can further assist our young men to be great men of God, and our older men to continue to be great men of God. So I thank you. That's our conversation for tonight. We had Ira Dorin, Devin Dorin on tonight, and his brother Ira Dorin, who couldn't make it, but we thank God for them. Truly good men of God. Y'all
it.
continue to be strong. Continue to do what God called you to do. Again, I want to thank God for my son. You know, his mother over there saying, "Don't forget Zach." That's a mother.
Zach!
So, but I thank him. He's on. And I love my son. I was excited when I found out I was having a boy. And his name means God remembers, and so God truly remembered us when he was born. So his birthday is August the 22nd, y'all. So y'all give him a shout out on his birthday. He's turning 13 years old. He's a teenager.
13.
Think he cute too, y'all. You think he cute? 13.
What?
Yeah. So we're going to sign out. So I thank y'all for watching. I thank y'all for tuning in, and I see you guys next week, 7 p.m. with some more guests to continue these talks. God bless you. Thank God for you. Thanks for watching. Y'all have a great night.
You too.
Talk to you later. All right. Bye-bye.